right, ladies. Let me see here. Let me get this up here. What time is it?
Woo.
Ask
Ask
your
your
aunties.
aunties.
All right. Does someone want to read it? Because I'm trying to get my life together.
Yeah, I can read it.
Go for it, boo.
It says, "Hey, aunties, my partner and I have been together for 8 years and we love each other very much. We recently got an incredible job offer across the country that's impossible to refuse. It would be great for his career. I love him deeply and I support him following his dream to pursue this opportunity, but I'm not willing to move. I moved to this state to set roots, and I know that if I move, I'll end up resenting it or my partner in the end. Is our relationship over?"
Ooh. And I saw this one come through. I was like, Corey, did you write this?
Girl, you know she loves to move.
She showed it. She showed it. So I was like, woo. I was like, woo. If I didn't know better. And that's hard. Like, I mean, I've moved once for Corey, and now he's moving twice now for me. And luckily, thus far, we've both been willing to move then B, been able to figure out how to make it work career wise. Because I like, especially like when I left Chicago, and he had got the job like off, especially then I was a little younger, so I got a lot more in my feelings than because I was like, oh, you leaving me and this and that. But like the older I've gotten, I realized there's just certain opportunities that if you don't take them, they might not come up again. and I understand that now, and I'm glad he maybe saw, like, because obviously the age difference, that he probably saw, okay, Carell's just a little young, but I'm willing to work it out and do this long distance thing, and it worked out, et cetera, et cetera. But it would be tough if either he or I were in a situation where we didn't want to move, and you're in this relationship. So I don't know. Like it sounds like you kind of almost want it to be over because you're throwing it out there. I, my advice is like, just look at the situation. If it's truly an awesome situation, at least for me, I'm going to be happy for my husband. I'm going to be excited for him and try to find a way to make it work, even if it's him moving up there before I'm even able to do so, and then eventually getting there. If it's a good situation for him, it's going to be a good situation for the both of you. And I get it. I get it being in love with certain areas that you live in, because I loved Chicago. I did not want to leave Chicago, but then ended up falling in love with Dallas, and then didn't want to leave Dallas and came to Atlanta. Definitely don't want to leave Atlanta, but here's Philly coming. And you just never know what's on the other side, that you might end up getting something more than you can ever envision. So if you want it to be over, let it be over. But I feel like it might be you're in your emotions right now, and give yourself a second. And it's okay to feel that way, but give yourself a moment, be like, okay, you know what? I want my spouse to succeed, or my boyfriend to succeed. How can I aid that? Even if it's maybe right now I'm compromising where I'm at and things like that.
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is a real tough one because there's not a lot of, we don't have any context in terms of like, what did they both do professionally,
All right.
because it might be a great opportunity for, for your partner, but then it may not be a great opportunity for your career,
Yeah.
so what does that mean?
Yeah.
And, like moving and changing careers are one of the top two reasons, for stress that results in couples breaking up. So I get this notion of saying like, wow, is our relationship over? I'm not reading into it that they want it to be they want the relationship to be over, which is why I think they're asking the question, because it doesn't give me the sense that they're trying to give an excuse to say, it's me or the highway. But it's a very valid question, like if you two made a commitment in terms of where you want to live and how you want to establish your lives, and there's a vision that's involved, and you've been there together for 8 years, so that's a pretty long time to be with somebody.
Sure is.
I think at the end of the day, what I would say is, if the love that you have is strong, you two will figure out the right thing for you. Um, there's a lot of things to weigh in the balance that a lot of people aren't built for, but maybe you're built for. So for example, maybe this becomes a long distance relationship for
Yes.
a short period of time where he goes out there to, I'm assuming it's a he, I don't oh yeah, he goes out there and to wherever there is, and sets up his life there or his career there, and you stay where you are, and you all come to some kind of agreement in terms of how you will spend time with one another. And for a lot of us, not, again, we don't know what your work situation is, a lot of us have a lot more flexibility due to COVID now, because
Yeah,
companies are allowing
yeah.
people to work remotely or flex their time or whatever. And so you know what I would just say is, I would say two things. One, this is a yes and situation, meaning, yes, your relationship could be over, and yes, you can figure it out
Yeah,
if you want to figure it out.
yeah.
And maybe it might take it might take some compromise, like you were saying, Carell. Um, but if you want to figure it out, then I think you two can figure out the right kind of agreement that works for the context of your relationship. What do you think,
Yeah,
Louis?
I agree with both of you. If you want it to be over, it will be over. But after 8 years, and it sounds like you don't want it to be over, like you're gonna have to do what it takes. It's gonna probably be more work than what you've had to do for your relationship over the last 8 years. But if you've been together for 8 years, you done been through some things. Y'all done had some fights. Y'all done had some
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
heated moments, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
at this point, it's about the communication and what your needs and wants are, which are two different things. Okay, so you have to be clear on that, and you have to be honest with your needs and your wants.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because your needs are going to be something that's going to it's going to be what's going to keep you in the relationship. Okay, so don't be selfish and be like, well, I need this and I need this when you really don't need that. Be specific on what your needs are to be able to possibly move, or your needs are to be in a long distance relationship, or whatever your relationship may look like, if you choose to stay in it and support your partner as he you know takes his journey as well too. Um but again, after 8 years, I think you have to, at this point, that relationships are work, and this is just
Mm-hmm.
part of work of relationship.
Hmm.
You're going to have these hard conversations. You're going to have to make these compromising decisions, and it may be that you may not be getting out of it what you ideally want, but a relationship is not always 50-50. Sometimes
Mm-mm.
it's 60-40, sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes it's a little upset. Maybe you have to give up more than the other person, but you have those conversations and figure out, well, if you're giving up more here, how is he helping offset that low percentage of where you feel like your needs aren't getting met? And that's why I go back to understanding your needs and your wants, because if he can make sure that your needs are met, well, then you are going to feel fine whatever you decide to do to make this relationship work with this, without having to necessarily move. And I agree completely with Dewan. Maybe it could just be, guess what? He's there for a year just to get that shit on the resume, to be able to say, I
Mm-hmm.
can do XYZ so I can open more doors. Don't look at it like this is how it's going to be forever.
Forever.
If you
Exactly.
I
communicate,
appreciate.
and talk about it, it could be something where, hey, maybe this is something we do for 2 years
Yep.
and we see each other every other weekend, or whatever the case is. Make a plan
Yeah.
Yep.
and execute it.
And I appreciate this person's like vulnerability and self-reflection, this notion of like when they said, I know that if I move, I'll end up resenting it. And that's a very real statement, and a lot
Yeah.
of people don't even have the foresight to
Mhm.
recognize that, oh, they might be putting themselves in a situation that they might not be comfortable with or whatever, or they might feel adversely about. So this goes to me, this just goes to show that you put a lot of thought into this situation. But also I would challenge you in your thinking, like, again, if part of the notion of if you want it to work, you'll make it work. I would challenge you in your thinking about, this notion of, will you end up resenting it? Because the fact that it gives you the opportunity to actually change that
That part of it.
mentality around, right? And figure out how you can make this an an advantage for you and for your relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and make no mistake, uh, whatever you decide to do in this situation, because this is a tough situation, it's going to require some work. It's
Yeah.
going to require some work for both of you, and so it's not going to be easy no matter what decision you decide to make. um but I think at the end of the day, kind of like the aunties were saying, if you just approach it with like with a sense of communication and really talk it through and really decide, like, you know are are you putting your own needs over the value and the benefit of the
Of the
relationship?
relationship.
And if you are, and that's what you need to do in this moment, that's okay, because again, everybody's built different. But if you're wondering, should you put your needs over, over the needs of your relationship, then that's something that you should discuss together.
And part of the roots part too of it, to like really identify when you say I want to establish roots, what does that mean? Because if it's with your partner, you're moving with your partner.
Yes.
Um, and that's something that, like, even with this opportunity that came up just now for me, I thought Atlanta was it because I wanted to establish roots and be in a city more than 5 years and things like that, just because I haven't done that since I've left college. But what I'm finding, especially with Corey, is like it's been cool to have this adventure and go on these journeys and new cities with him. Like he
Mhm.
is like my roots now. And so wherever he's at, I'm rooted, if that makes sense. So it's just like as bittersweet as it is to leave the cities because there's a familiarity with the city, there's friends, there's your favorite restaurants, there's whatever it may be. Ultimately, you have a situation where it seems the relationship is working for the most part. If you're together for 8 years, that wherever you're going to be, yes, it might not be your ideal city in that moment, but you're still with your partner, and that's the root foundation that you'll still need and that you'll still have. So maybe even think of it that way, because like luckily we've been able, at least from my experience, we've been able to move to cities that I would want to potentially live in. Maybe Dallas wasn't like my ideal city, but once you get there, you find new friends, you find a new normal, you find a new system and things like that. So kind of think of it that way. Yes, it might not be your ideal, but like Jarrell said, 2 years, maybe we're doing long distance, or maybe you're just there for 2 years to help the career long term, and kind of think of from like a long term lens that, okay, if
Mhm.
I loved it. Like the one thing my dad told me too, he's like, because I was like, I love Atlanta. Like I don't want to leave. Da 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 da. He's like, Carell, you will find a way ultimately to get what you need. He's like, you've always been good about that. If you want to get back to Atlanta, you could get back to Atlanta. And so once you kind of think of that way, that it might not be a permanent situation, that you can always get to wherever you thought was where you're going to establish roots, you might be uncomfortable for a couple of years, and if it's worth it for your relationship, I would say move. But if you're a stickler and saying, I just can't do it, then okay, that's fine, that's your decision. But have that conversation with your partner and figure out if that means it's the end of the road, or it's just long distance, open relationship, whatever that looks like, to ensure that you're both getting what you need out of it.
And I would also encourage to while you're like thinking about this too, to also like just put yourself in your partner's shoes and see if the and ask yourself, if the roles were reversed, what kind of support or what kind of thought
Yeah.
would you hope that your partner would give you in return? And ask yourself, am I at least doing that? Like, am I giving what I would have at least wanted if the roles were reversed?
It's a real
Because
statement.
that will let you know exactly how selfish or how fair you're actually being. Because it's very easy to be caught up in your feelings and be like, well, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, and you not realizing, well, guess what, if the roles reverse, you wouldn't want your partner to act how you are acting in this moment. So
Mhm.
I would say think about that too, just a little bit.
Is there a place, like, just piggybacking off this? Is there a place in the United States that, like, like if your partner got like a job in like
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right. I've been there.
I mean, I got friends in Tulsa, so I could manage in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I visited once when I lived in
What if it
Dallas
was-
because my roommate lived there, and I was like, okay, this is cute for now. For the day, the weekend that I'm here, couldn't live here.
Right.
Thank you.
What if it's like Alabama City, Montana? That's got like 300 people and they all white. No gay community at all.
You know, actually, as much as I say no, as much as I probably would, and it would probably just be like, well, first of all, he would have to be making a lot more, and it would have to be well worth it for me to go all the way there. Yeah. But I would also make a game out of it and just be like, let's see how many white people I can make uncomfortable. You know, that would be
the news.
Girl, that Montana, you end up in some little creek that we never see Jarrell again.
She'll be like, I am the only gay in this village.
And it's funny. This is conversations Corey and I have had of, okay, if I got an offer to go XYZ or you got an offer to go XYZ, where are we not going? And luckily we've been fairly on the same page. Like, we both want to be in a predominantly big area, like some kind of city life. The only area that I have not agreed to yet that Corey's all about, and he always wants to, and if I said tomorrow, fuck Philly, we going here, he would go, is Fort Lauderdale. I'm not ready for the Fort Lauderdale life, but he's always ever since I met him, I've known it, the decade we've been together, that...
I've never been. What's the Fort Lauderdale life like?
You never been to Fort Lauderdale?
I mean, so I've been to Fort Lauderdale, but I have not, because I was there last year for that wedding.
Yeah.
But I've never like gotten to truly experience Fort Lauderdale. Because we were still in the pandemic, we still hadn't had a vaccine. So like, you know, luckily it was my good Judy. I known her for 17 years, so I was like, all right, I'll risk it for you, girl.
Right.
But I mean, like, I was masked up. We ain't doing shit. I ain't see nothing. So I guess
I love it there, honestly. But I'm at the point where I still want to vacate there and maybe not live there quite yet. Yeah. Because honestly, Fort Lauderdale and Wilton Manor and all that, it's actually smaller than people think. Yes, you have Miami down the road and things like that, but it's still a smaller area than I want to live in right now.
They be living their best life because Brandon.
Oh yeah,
Brandon Instagram star. I'd be like, girl.
It's a blast for sure. But I'd rather visit still right now than to live there full time. And it's not to say that I wouldn't ever do it, because I get the charm of it for sure. But I think that's one of the parts where the age difference for Corey and I comes into play sometimes. He's getting into that mind frame of just like, let's slow it down a little bit. You know, I love the beach. Let's do the beach life. And it's a highly gay area, so that part's awesome. But I'm just not quite all the way there yet. But I could see one day doing it, but not in the next 5 years or so. But if it was an awesome opportunity for him, and I was still able to have my career going, it would be a conversation then. And it wouldn't be just like, I'm done with this relationship. I don't care how long that's not fair to the relationship. It's not fair to him. So to kind of hear this question is like, even though I might feel that way, I owe it to my partner, at least I feel like I owe it to him to at least hear him out, hear the opportunity out, and then weigh our options. And I don't want to get in the way. Ultimately, in Corey's like, I don't want to get in the way of his happiness and his opportunities and his success, period, for me. Even if that means Carell has to compromise a little bit in certain situations, ultimately, I think his success is going to be our success and vice versa. So that's kind of how I kind of think in things. I
do feel like, going back to the Ask Yo Auntie question, and I know we spent a lot of time on it, and but I feel like... but I do feel like there's three things strong things for consideration. One, it's, the quality of the relationship. That's a conversation that needs to be had. I think the second one is the quality of the financial arrangement, with the new job opportunity that's down there, because that is that has a significant weight on the quality of the relationship. And then I think the other thing is the quality of life
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the area that you're moving into, because look, we've all been in this pandemic life where we've been on top of our partners, and not in a sexual
Ooh.
way, but
Oh.
like from a but from like a like, damn, I see you everywhere, I can't even
Yeah.
escape,
Yeah.
kind of way, especially
Yeah.
over the course of the winter for those of us that are a little bit up north.
Yeah.
So like imagine compounding that experience with not having the kind of like Fort Lauderdale, or a place that is very metropolitan or cosmopolitan,
Yeah.
that has amenities and things that can give you something to do outside of the house. So you can look, we all know that the older you get, the sometimes the harder it can be to make new quality friends,
Yeah.
and and build a network around you. And so, those are just three things that that you'll have to weigh out, and I know how easy it is to like say, oh, well, the fourth thing is my feelings and what I want, and da 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 da. But like when you put those other three things in perspective, right? Your relationship, the financial situation that you'll be going into, because if you can't find a job going out there, then what kind of stress is that and strain is
Yeah.
that going to put on the relationship? That's something to be considered. And then what is the quality of life, that you can manage, right? Not what you prefer, but what you can manage. And will that quality of life give you the opportunity to build, network and friends and all that kind of stuff? So it's a lot
Yeah.
to consider.
Well, continue to send your Ask Yo Aunteas to aya@minoritetyreport.com or DM us. And one topic we actually do want to put out there real quick for an upcoming series of conversations is one area that we realized we haven't really shared too much on is just like our professional lives. Like we do the damn thing, So if there's any questions, especially like Dewan's in HR, so if there's just even questions that you're like, I'm going through this situation, what's the best way professionally to approach it, or whatever it may be, send us some of those questions as well, because we really want to kind of dig into that as well, just to, especially as people of color in the corporate world and things like that, it could be a little challenging at times, but how to overcome that, and any tricks up our sleeves that we've kind of utilized in our careers. So send those in as well, and we'll kind of start to navigate those conversations here in the coming weeks.
One of the things, just to piggyback on that, is just the realization that particularly as Black people, we may have professionals in our family, some don't. And when I say
Yeah.
professionals, though, they're in corporate, like
Yeah.
corporate world. So if
Yeah.
you are in corporate world, you are not in a specialized profession where you had to go to a college to get a specialized degree, like being a lawyer, being a doctor, or whatever. But you're in a corporate profession. Navigating those waters when it comes to job hunting, growing your career within the company that you're in, navigating your own financial well-being and whatnot, and being able to negotiate for what you need and being able to make those kind of moves. A lot of us don't have people within our family who can be sponsors and get us into the boardrooms and whatnot,
Yeah.
and then B, to be able to bounce our questions off of when you run into a situation that's more like office related. So this is definitely an area that your aunties can play an auntie role in, and be and be a support system, and you can bounce some of those questions off of us. It doesn't have to be too deep, and it doesn't have to be
No.
messy. It can be if
We
you
like
want.
those too.
We like them too. But if you do just want some advice on how do I go about doing this, or you're entering the job market and you're trying to change careers, or you're just trying to bet on yourself and trying to decide if you want to go out on your own or kind of do your own thing. Between the three of us, we've had quite a bit of experience in a lot of different areas, and we'd be happy to share that with you.
Absolutely.